4 seductive alien widows came for shelter, but a human stole their attention. The Tempest's arrival. The plasma storm arrived without warning, turning Erythrosa's violet sky into a churning maelstrom of electric fury. Cale Thorne barely had time to activate his outpost shields before the first wave hit, rattling the reinforced walls of his research station. Through the observation window, he spotted them, 4 figures struggling against the howling winds, their flowing garments whipping wildly as they sought shelter. Without hesitation, Cale cycled the airlock. They stumbled inside, graceful even in their desperation. As they lowered their hoods, Cale's breath caught. Each woman possessed an otherworldly beauty that made his pulse quicken. Valara moved first, her silver hair cascading like liquid moonlight. "We thank you, stranger," she said, her voice carrying melodic undertones. Her violet eyes studied him with an intensity that made him shift uncomfortably. "I'm Cale," he managed, aware of how the 4 women seemed to fill his small shelter with their presence. "You're welcome to stay until the storm passes." Kaelin laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "How fortunate that we found the only human on this side of the continent." She moved closer, her amber eyes dancing with mischief. "And such a handsome one." Thessa, adjusting her scholar's robes, observed him with academic interest. "We've heard of your kind but never encountered one. Your generosity is unexpected." Her gaze lingered on his features as if memorizing them for study. The 4th, Zainara, remained near the door, her warriors bearing evident despite her flowing dress. "We are widows of the Synthesis Wars," she stated simply. "We travel together for protection, but this storm—" She trailed off, her strong facade cracking slightly. Cale gestured toward his living area. "Please, make yourselves comfortable. I have food, water, whatever you need." As they settled in, he noticed how they moved, fluid, synchronized, yet each maintaining her unique presence. Valara's fingers brushed his as he handed her a thermal blanket, the touch sending unexpected warmth through him. "You live alone?" Kaelin asked, already making herself comfortable on his couch, her posture invitingly relaxed. "Research," Cale explained, trying not to stare at how the fabric of their clothing seemed to shimmer in his station's light. "I study the local flora." "How fascinating," Thessa murmured, moving to examine his equipment. "A man of science." The storm raged outside, but inside, a different kind of energy began to build. Stories in the firelight. Cale prepared a simple meal as the storm intensified outside, the rhythmic pounding against the shields creating an intimate atmosphere. The widows gathered around his table, their exotic beauty enhanced by the warm glow of the bioluminescent panels. "This is delicious," Valara said, her fingers delicately handling the utensils. She caught him watching and smiled, a gesture that transformed her mysterious demeanor into something softer. "You're quite skilled for someone living alone." "Tell us about Earth," Kaelin requested, leaning forward in a way that drew his attention to her graceful neckline. "We've heard stories, but meeting an actual human." She let the sentence hang, her amber eyes holding his. Cale found himself relaxing, sharing stories of his homeworld while learning about theirs. As the evening deepened, the conversation turned to their pasts. "My mate was a diplomat," Thessa revealed quietly, her scholarly composure wavering. "He believed in peace until the very end." Her hand rested on the table, and Cale impulsively covered it with his own. She didn't pull away, instead turning her palm up to intertwine their fingers. "Mine was a warrior, like me," Zainara added, her strong voice carrying a hint of vulnerability. "We fought side by side until—" She stopped, and Cale noticed the others move closer to comfort her. Valara's story came last. "A poet," she whispered. "He wrote verses about my eyes." She looked directly at Cale. "He said they held storms. What do you see in them?" The question hung between them, charged with meaning. Cale felt drawn into those violet depths. "I see strength," he answered honestly. "And something wild, untamed." Kaelin broke the tension with a gentle laugh. "Look at us, melancholy widows boring our handsome host." She stood, moving with feline grace to the window. "The storm seems to be lasting longer than usual." You're welcome to stay as long as needed, Kale offered, meaning it more than he expected. Careful, Thessa warned playfully, releasing his hand slowly. We might take you up on that. As they prepared for sleep, Kale offered his bed to them, planning to take the couch. But Valara caught his arm, her touch electric. We don't mind sharing spaces, she said, her meaning ambiguous yet thrilling. We're used to close quarters. The sleeping arrangements became a delicate dance of proximity and restraint, each widow finding reasons to be near him, their warmth and presence filling his once lonely outpost with unexpected possibility. Dancing with starlight. The storm's fury had lessened but not ceased, trapping them together for another day. After breakfast, Valara stood gracefully, extending her hand to Kale. On our world, we dance to honor the storms. Will you learn? Her fingers were warm in his as she pulled him to the center of the room. Place your hand here, she guided, setting his palm against her waist. The fabric of her dress was impossibly soft, and beneath it, he could feel the warmth of her skin. The key is to move like water, she instructed, beginning to sway. Their bodies moved in sync, and Kale found himself lost in the rhythm. Valara pressed closer, her breath warm against his neck. You learn quickly, she murmured, her lips nearly brushing his ear. My turn, Kalen announced, smoothly cutting in. Her style was different, playful, teasing. She spun under his arm, then pulled herself against him, her back to his chest. Feel the music in your bones, she whispered, guiding his hands to her hips as they moved together. Thessa approached next, her dance more formal but no less intimate. In the scholars' courts, we dance to share knowledge, she explained, her hands exploring his arms, his shoulders, as if reading him through touch. Every movement tells a story. She gazed up at him, their faces inches apart. What story are we telling? Before he could answer, Zainara claimed her turn. The warrior's dance was passionate, almost aggressive. She pulled him close, their bodies fitting together as she led him through complex steps. Dancing and fighting aren't so different, she said, her strong arms around his neck. Both require trust, synchronization. She paused, her lips close to his, surrender. The afternoon became a blur of movement and touch. The widows began dancing together, including him in their circle, their bodies weaving around his in increasingly intimate patterns. Valara's hand would trail across his chest as she passed. Kalin would press against his back during a turn. Thessa's fingers would tangle briefly in his hair. Zainara would pull him close, then spin away, leaving him breathless. You're all incredible, Kale admitted, his heart racing from more than exertion. We haven't felt this alive in so long, Valara confessed, her usually mysterious expression open and vulnerable. As the dancing slowed, they found themselves in a close cluster, bodies warm and breathing synchronized. The storm outside seemed distant compared to the electricity crackling between them in the small space. Hearts unveiled. A sudden power surge from the storm plunged the outpost into darkness. Emergency lighting cast everything in a soft blue glow, creating an even more intimate atmosphere. The five of them huddled together near the backup heater, sharing blankets and body warmth. I haven't been this close to anyone since. Thessa trailed off, her head resting against Kale's shoulder. She shivered, and he noticed her favoring her left side. You're hurt, he observed, seeing her wince. An old injury from the wars, she admitted. The cold makes it ache. Let me help, Kale offered, retrieving his medical supplies. As he gently treated her shoulder, his fingers working the healing salve into her skin, the other widows watched with undisguised longing. Your touch is gentle, Thessa breathed, her eyes fluttering closed. She turned to face him, their proximity in the dim light creating a bubble of intimacy. I had forgotten how it feels to be cared for. Valara moved closer on his other side, her fingers tracing patterns on his arm. We all have our scars, she whispered, guiding his hand to a faint mark on her collarbone. This one saved my life, but cost me everything else. The confession opened floodgates. Each widow began sharing not just their losses, but their desires, their fears, their dreams. Kalin curled against his back, her arms around his waist. I thought I'd never laugh again, she admitted. But you make me remember joy. Zainara, usually so strong, allowed tears to fall. "Warriors aren't supposed to fear," she said, "but I'm terrified of feeling again." Kale pulled her closer, and she melted into his embrace, her warrior's armor finally falling away. They spent hours like this, tangled together in the emergency lighting, sharing stories, touches, and moments of raw vulnerability. Kale found himself kissing Valara's forehead when she cried, stroking Thessa's hair as she dozed, holding Kaelin as she trembled with suppressed emotion, and providing Zainara the strength to be weak. How can one heart hold so much? Kale wondered aloud, overwhelmed by his feelings for each of them. "Perhaps," Valara suggested, her lips brushing his jaw, "hearts aren't meant to hold love, but to let it flow through them." The power returned gradually, but none of them moved, unwilling to break the spell of connection they'd woven in the darkness. Each widow had claimed a piece of his heart, and surprisingly, there seemed to be room for them all. Dawn's promise. The storm broke just before dawn, painting the sky in shades of gold and lavender. Kale stood at the window, watching the sunrise, when he felt familiar arms encircle him from behind. "We have to leave soon," Valara said against his back, her voice heavy with reluctance. One by one, the others joined them at the window. The moment they'd all been avoiding had arrived. Over the past days, something profound had developed. Not just attraction, but genuine connection, understanding, and love in its various forms. "I don't want you to go," Kale admitted, turning to face them. "Any of you." Kaelin reached up, cupping his face. "Sweet Kale, we've been traveling together because none of us knew how to be alone. But now we've found something worth staying for," Thessa finished, her scholarly mind having worked through the possibilities. "But how could we ask you to choose? Or how could we choose?" Zainara added, her warrior's pride warring with her heart. Kale looked at each of them, Valara's wild beauty, Kaelin's playful spirit, Thessa's brilliant mind, Zainara's fierce strength. The answer came to him with surprising clarity. "In my research, I've learned that Earth concepts don't always apply here," he began carefully. "Your culture, your ways, they're different from mine. But perhaps that's not a limitation, it's an opportunity." Valara's eyes widened in understanding. "You're suggesting—" "Stay," Kale said simply. "All of you. This outpost is large enough, and I have room in my life, in my heart, for each of you. Not as competition, but as complement. You've traveled together, supported each other. Why should that change now?" The widows exchanged glances, generations of cultural understanding passing between them. On their world, such arrangements weren't unheard of, especially after great losses. "You would take 4 grieving widows into your life?" Thessa asked, her voice wondering. "I would welcome 4 extraordinary women who've brought light back into mine," Kale corrected, pulling them all closer. Kaelin laughed, bright and free. "The storm brought us here for a reason." "Then we stay," Zainara declared, her warrior's decisiveness settling the matter. As the sun rose fully, they stood together, 5 souls who had found shelter from more than just a storm. Valara began to hum an alien melody, and soon they were all swaying together, not as individuals seeking attention, but as a unit, a chosen family born from loss but built on love. The outpost, once a place of solitude, had become a home. And in the weeks that followed, as they learned to navigate their unique arrangement, Kale discovered that love, like the universe itself, was ever expanding, with room enough for all the forms it chose to take. The end.